It begins in silence. No dramatic moment, no clear breaking point. Just a child, maybe 6 or 7 years old, staring at someone who should be protecting them. Instead, that someone is crumbling, falling apart in real time before innocent eyes. And something shifts. Something ancient and primal awakens in that small, underdeveloped brain. A terrifying realization forms without words being spoken. If I don't fix this, everything collapses. This is where childhood ends. Not with celebration, not with graduations or milestones, but with a silent sacrifice nobody witnesses. The child doesn't vanish physically, but psychologically. They disappear. They transform into something the world will later call mature for their age. However, maturity is just a mask. Underneath it, a prison is being built, one that will trap them for decades. The scars this leaves, the patterns it creates, the identity it steals, and most importantly, how to finally break free. Today we descend into that prison. We'll explore what happens when a child becomes an adult before their mind is ready. Because this isn't just about sadness. This is about complex trauma that rewires everything. How you love, how you work, how you exist. Let's start with what actually happens in the brain. When adults should be caring for children, but the roles reverse completely. Psychologists have a term for this: parentification. The child becomes caregiver, protector, therapist, emotional manager for people twice their size. This isn't just unhealthy parenting. This fundamentally alters brain development. It creates something called hypervigilance that never fully shuts off. You learn to scan every room for danger, to read microexpressions, to predict moods before they surface. Survival becomes your default mode. Love stops being unconditional. It becomes transactional. You give peace. Maybe they give safety. You suppress needs. Maybe they stay stable. So you disappear emotionally. Not all at once, gradually. Piece by piece. Until the real you is buried so deep, you forget it existed. In its place grows a performer. The good child, the responsible one. The one who never complains, never cries, never asks for anything. You wear this identity so convincingly that even you believe it is real. However, deep in your chest, something aches constantly. That ache is the inner child you buried alive. Still screaming silently in the dark. Still asking, why didn't anyone protect me? But nobody hears them. Because everyone is too busy praising your strength, your maturity, your incredible responsibility at such a young age. Nobody stops to ask the most important question: at what cost? What did you lose to become this version of yourself? The answer is everything. You lost your childhood, your innocence, your right to be messy, confused, vulnerable, and still be loved anyway. Think about what a normal childhood looks like: running without purpose, laughing without reason, crying when hurt without shame or apology, playing pretend without worrying about bills, about adult moods, about keeping the peace, about managing emotions that aren't even yours. But you didn't get that. Instead, you got a crash course in emotional labor, in walking on eggshells, in becoming invisible. You learned that your tears made things worse, that your needs were inconvenient, that your happiness was conditional on their stability. So you adapted. You became what they needed, instead of what you were. You became a mirror, instead of a person. And the world rewarded you for it. Teachers praised you, relatives admired you, strangers called you an old soul. However, nobody saw the cost. The nights you cried alone, the fear that never left your body, the childhood slipping away. Nobody saw you practicing conversations in your head, calculating which words were safe, which emotions were allowed, which version of you to show. You became a master of emotional mathematics. If I do this, they'll react that way. If I hide this, maybe they'll stay calm. This is how a 7-year-old learns to think like a strategist, like a hostage negotiator, like someone 3 times their age. But here's what nobody tells you. These skills come at a price. They're not gifts. They're survival mechanisms that calcify into identity. As you grow older, the symptoms become more complex, more insidious. They shape everything you touch, but you can't see them clearly. You become hyper-independent, refusing help like it is poison, pushing people away the moment they get too close to the real you. Because accepting help means vulnerability. However, vulnerability means danger. It means the possibility of being let down again, being abandoned again. So you do everything yourself. You carry everything alone. You convince yourself that needing nothing makes you strong, but it just makes you lonely. You never feel truly safe in love, because safety requires trust. However, Trust requires believing someone won't leave when things get hard. And your childhood taught you the opposite. People leave, people crumble. People use you until you are drained, then wonder why you are empty. So you keep people at arm's length, close enough to feel connection, far enough to survive the inevitable abandonment you are certain is coming. Happy moments feel wrong, joy feels unearned, celebration feels dangerous, like the universe will punish you for daring to feel good. You've internalized a belief that peace is temporary, that happiness is borrowed, that the other shoe will always drop eventually. This is called waiting for the catastrophe. Your nervous system never fully relaxes because it is constantly scanning for the next disaster. You struggle to rest. Productivity becomes the only language your nervous system understands, the only proof that you deserve to exist. Sitting still feels like failure. Relaxing feels like laziness. Taking a break feels like you are betraying some invisible contract you signed as a child. So you fill every moment with doing, with achieving, with proving. However, proving what? That you are worthy to whom? For what? The answer is always the same. To the parent who couldn't see you. To the adult who needed you instead of nurturing you. Worst of all, you don't realize you are stuck, because when dysfunction becomes normal early, your nervous system accepts chaos as home. Stillness feels suspicious. Peace feels like the calm before disaster. Love feels like debt you'll eventually have to repay. This is the psychology of forced maturity. Not simple sadness. Complex trauma that reshapes your entire relationship with yourself and reality. Your brain wired itself around threat detection instead of joy, around performance instead of authenticity, around survival instead of living. And nobody taught you how to rewire it. Nobody taught you that you could. Nobody even told you it needed rewiring. Now you might wonder, why would any child willingly accept this role? The answer is both simple and devastating. Because children will sacrifice anything for attachment, even themselves, even their future, even their sanity. Attachment is survival. To a child, being needed is better than being abandoned. Being useful is better than being invisible. Being the caregiver is better than having no one at all. The choice is never conscious, never deliberate. It is biological, it is instinct. In the absence of safety, authenticity becomes expendable. That is not weakness. That is the most intelligent thing a child can do. Adapt to survive. However, here is the tragedy. Nobody tells you. What saves you then becomes your prison later. The strategies that kept you alive at 7 destroy your life at 30. The hypervigilance that protected you becomes anxiety. The emotional control becomes numbness. The independence becomes isolation. The performance becomes perfectionism. The responsibility becomes burnout. The strength becomes an inability to be soft, vulnerable, or human. So many of us walk around as high-functioning adults, successful on paper, dying on the inside, with neglected inner children pulling every string. We overachieve to earn love we should have received freely. We stay silent to avoid abandonment. We fear is always coming. We become therapists to everyone around us, but secretly wish someone would look us in the eye and ask, "Are you okay?" That fantasy haunts us, that maybe someone will notice we're not as strong as we pretend, that we'll finally get permission to collapse, that someone will see through the performance, will catch us before we fall, will hold us without us having to ask. That is the unmet need, not of your adult self, but of the child who never got to be a child. The child who needed someone to say, "You don't have to be strong right now, I've got you, you can rest." But nobody ever said that. So you kept going, kept performing, kept holding everything together, until holding together became your entire identity. The first step toward healing isn't fixing, isn't positive thinking, isn't pretending everything is fine when it is clearly not. It is witnessing, seeing what actually happened, validating the truth you've spent decades trying to rationalize away with phrases like, "It wasn't that bad," because you gaslight yourself constantly. Other people had it worse. I turned out fine, I shouldn't complain. However, fine is a mask. Fine is what you tell people when you don't trust them with the truth. Fine is the armor you wear to work, to family dinners, to therapy. Deep down, you know it, you feel it. The exhaustion, the emptiness, the sense that you are performing life instead of living it. You feel it in the way you can't receive compliments, in the way you apologize for existing, in the way rest feels like punishment. You feel it in relationships where you give everything but can't accept anything, where you are the rock but never the one being held. So what happens to that child when they grow up? They become adults who never feel safe, even in calm rooms. Even when nothing is wrong, something feels wrong. Even when people are kind, you are waiting for the cruelty underneath. Even when life is good, you are bracing for the collapse, because your nervous system was trained in chaos, not peace. They become lovers who can't trust softness, who interpret kindness as manipulation, who wait for the other shoe to always drop. They build walls so high that even they can't climb over them. They test people's love by pushing them away, then feel vindicated when they leave. They become givers who can't receive, who feel guilty accepting compliments, who apologize for crying, who flinch at genuine affection. Because receiving means owing. Receiving means vulnerability. Receiving means someone has seen your need, and need feels like weakness. They confuse exhaustion with success, burnout with dedication, self-destruction with discipline. They mistake survival mode for ambition. They wear their busyness like a badge, their lack of sleep like a trophy, their inability to say no like proof of their worth. This is the cost of growing up too fast. If childhood trained you to be strong instead of soft, the adulthood you inherit is hollow. If it trained you to fix others while ignoring your own fractures, you inherit a life of silent resentment and invisible pain. You inherit a life where you are always holding your breath, waiting for permission to finally fall apart, permission that never comes. You inherit a life where you are the therapist, the fixer, the strong one, but never the one who gets to be held. But here is the truth that will either terrify you or set you free. Nobody is coming to rescue the child you buried. No partner, no therapist, no amount of achievement, no external validation. Nobody is coming to give you permission to finally rest. You are the one who must go back. You are the one who must hold their hand. You are the one who must say what nobody else ever said. You didn't deserve that. You were just a child. You get to rest now. This is shadow work, not fixing, not performing, but witnessing. Turning toward the abandoned parts of yourself, the ashamed parts, the scared parts, the angry parts, and saying, I see you now, I hear you now, and I am not leaving. That is reparenting. And it is brutal because it asks you to feel the grief you never had time to feel. It asks you to sit with rage, with sorrow, with unmet needs that still echo in your chest decades later, to weep for birthdays where nobody showed up, to mourn innocence lost while protecting people who should have protected you instead, to rage at the adults who stole your childhood, to grieve the person you might have been if you'd been allowed to just be a kid. However, that grief isn't weakness. It is proof you are healing, because what was once frozen is finally thawing, finally moving, finally alive. Grief means you are no longer numb, no longer performing, no longer pretending that everything is fine when it never was. Let's talk about how this survival pattern shows up in adulthood. Subtly, tragically, often invisibly until someone points it out. You become the therapist in every friendship, but never let anyone see you. Never let them witness your mess, your doubt, your fragility. You listen to everyone's problems. You give advice, you show up. However, when someone asks about you, you deflect. Change the subject, make a joke, because being seen feels dangerous. Being known feels like giving someone ammunition. Being vulnerable feels like handing them the knife to stab you with. You are praised for independence. However, deep down, you are terrified of being a burden, of needing anything, of being too much to handle. So you do everything alone. You suffer in silence. You convince yourself that asking for help is weakness when it is actually courage. You are in relationships where you overfunction, constantly fixing, managing, explaining, then wondering why resentment grows like a tumor inside you. You become the emotional manager, the conflict resolver, the one who always knows what to say. However, who manages your emotions? Nobody. You struggle with boundaries, because saying no still feels like betrayal, like abandonment, like proof you are selfish and don't deserve love. Every boundary feels like a door closing. Every no feels like you are becoming the person who hurt you. Every limit feels like cruelty. These aren't personality traits, they're coping strategies, learned, conditioned, reinforced over years. But here's the good news, they're unlearnable. But only when you stop idolizing your strength. Only when you stop wearing your trauma like a badge of honor. Only when you start honoring your wounds instead of weaponizing them. When you stop using I am fine as a shield. Only when you admit that the strength everyone praises was never a choice. It was survival. However, you are not surviving anymore. You are living. One of the most powerful things you can do is ask your inner child a simple question. What did I need back then that I never got? Sit with that question. Don't rush to answer. Let the child inside you speak. Let them tell you what they've been trying to say for decades. You might hear answers like, I needed someone to tell me it wasn't my fault, or I needed someone to ask how I was doing. I needed to play, to rest, to laugh without fear of punishment. I needed someone to protect me instead of me protecting them. I needed to be a kid, to be messy, to be loud, to be needy without apology, to be loved without having to earn it. And slowly, painfully, you begin giving those things to yourself. Not to fix your past, you can't, but to stop reliving it. To stop recreating the same patterns in every relationship you enter. To stop seeking parents in your partners. to stop abandoning yourself. This is how you stop seeking parents in your partners. How you stop mistaking anxiety for intuition. How you stop running from yourself. This is how you learn that rest isn't laziness, that boundaries aren't cruelty, that needing people doesn't make you weak. This is how you learn to receive without guilt, to cry without shame, to be soft without feeling like you are breaking. Carl Jung once said something that still echoes through psychology today. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. However, shadow work demands we face it, all of it. The neglected, the ashamed, the scared, the furious, the parts of you that you've spent your entire life trying to bury. Because healing isn't about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. Before you learned that love was earned. Before you learned that safety was conditional. Before you learned that you were too much. It is about excavating the child you buried, dusting them off, holding them, and telling them the truth they never got to hear. The work isn't easy. Some days you'll feel like you are regressing, like you are becoming the child again. However, that is not regression, that is integration. That is the child finally getting to come home, finally getting to be held, finally getting to rest without fear of punishment. Some days you'll cry for hours, you'll rage at people who are long gone, you'll grieve losses that happened decades ago. However, that grief is sacred. That rage is holy, because it means you are no longer numb, no longer pretending, no longer performing. Let's talk about what reparenting actually looks like. Because it is not just affirmations, it is not just bubble baths and self-care Sundays. It is learning to speak to yourself the way you needed to be spoken to, with patience, with gentleness, with unconditional acceptance. It is learning to validate your own feelings instead of minimizing them. I am tired instead of I am fine. I am hurt instead of it is okay. It is learning to set boundaries without guilt, to say no without explaining, to prioritize yourself without feeling selfish. It is learning to rest without earning it, to exist without being productive, to be loved without being perfect. It is learning to play again, to laugh without purpose, to do things simply because they bring you joy, not because they're useful. It is learning to be messy, to be confused, to not have all the answers, to be human instead of a machine. However, it is also learning to hold the child inside you when they're scared, when they feel abandoned, when they think nobody cares. It is learning to be the parent you needed, the one who shows up, the one who listens, the one who says, "You are safe now." This work takes time. It is not linear. Some days you'll feel whole, other days you'll feel like you are back at the beginning. But every time you choose softness over strength, vulnerability over performance, rest over productivity, you are healing that child. Every time you say no without apologizing, cry without shame, ask for help without feeling weak, you are rewriting the story. If you are someone who grew up too fast, understand this. Your maturity was never the problem. The problem was you had no choice. You did what you had to do to survive. You became what they needed because the alternative was unbearable. But now you do have a choice. You can choose softness, you can choose rest, you can choose to stop managing everyone else's emotions. You can choose to honor your own. And no, it won't happen overnight. There will be days you feel like a child again. Good. That is the point. Let that child come home. Let them cry. Let them play. Let them finally be seen without shame. Let them be angry. Let them be messy. Let them be needy. Let them be everything they never got to be. Because you are not broken. You are becoming whole. And maybe for the first time, you are finally growing up the right way. Not through pressure. Not through fear. Not through forced responsibility. But through truth. Through choice. Through self-compassion. Not through abandoning yourself for others. But through coming home to yourself. Through choosing yourself. Through finally being on your own side. You never had a childhood, but you still have a future. And this time, you get to write it. This time, you get to decide what love looks like, what safety feels like, what rest means, what you deserve. This time, you don't have to earn your existence. You don't have to perform to be worthy. You don't have to fix anyone to be loved. This time, you get to be soft, to be vulnerable, to be human, to be the child you never got to be, and the adult you are becoming. However, before you do, answer this question honestly. Look at your life right now. Look at your relationships. Look at how you treat yourself. Are you still trying to earn love, or are you finally ready to receive it?